our first guest for the day is Yukti. And when I think about women and mental health, the first name that came to my mind was Yukti, because I've been associated with her since so long, and she's been so easy, and also she's been coaching and training many women around her. So like first name which came to our mind was Yukti. So I'll introduce Yukti. So Yukti is a multifaceted personality with diverse interest and deep desire to create an impact. She is former Gladrex Mrs. India runner-up and an ex-banker and with Cities and Barclays. Through her passionately driven platform SBY Academy, she has already impacted 50,000 plus individuals across 100 plus organizations. Yukti has been felicitated with Mumbai Women Leadership Award 2021, Top 10 Startup CEOs 2020, National Women Excellence Award 2018, and many such prestigious award recognitions from the leadership and entrepreneur space. She passionately supports YVO and Angel Express Foundation as a humble volunteer to give back to the society. So I'm really, really glad, and I invite Yukti to take up a session on mental health for women.
Thank you so much, Yanki, and thank you, Manisha, for creating a platform like Inside Out. When we talk about leadership at SBY Academy, we strongly advocate us to even lead from inside out, because the more connected you are with yourself, the better you connect with people outside in the world around you. So let me invite you all to celebrate the World Mental Health Day today. And I'm so glad that we have such days which can bring in the realization and awareness of the fact that we've got to talk about issues like this. Now, I don't believe in being in the audience when we talk about the majority suffering with something, because I am no exception. Now, while Yanki covered quite some bit of what I have done so far, what she has not covered, and rightly so, because she's probably unaware, and so are many other people, about me. And the fact is that as educated and well qualified as I am, I'm also quite unaware of what mental depression means. What are various mental disorders that people can face? And that unawareness is something that I had to pay a price for in my own life, right? So postnatal depression was not something that looked like an interesting subject for me to think about or read about, as much as I love reading, because I thought that something like this has got nothing to do with me. I'm with a very happy family. I come from a strong rooted family, and I'm emotionally stable. What can go wrong? What is mental, well-being or lack of it is to do with me? It's a great conversation to have, but not a part of my life. And while I was in it, right in the middle of experiencing postnatal depression, I was so clueless about what was going on. So I was looking for the logical me. And in my family, I was seeking the empathetic them. Like I was wondering what happened to them? Where is their heart? How come suddenly they can't understand what I'm going through? And how can I blame them if I could barely understand what I was going through? And that is such a classic example of the level of unawareness that exists in our so-called educated society. The only way to enhance that awareness is to talk to people and understand what is going on with them. Helping people is not always about jumping in with a solution or claiming to be an expert that you're not. Helping people is also about being a sounding board where you can just be there without judging what the other person is going through. And let me tell you, the biggest fear that we all have in admitting to the fact that somebody or we ourselves are not okay mentally is the fear of being judged. If we don't feel judged, a lot of us will come out in the open asking for help. And that is not happening today because we know that the moment I say I'm mentally unstable, people will judge me. Or forget me. If I say my sister is, my husband is, my father is, I don't want to say that because I think my family will get judged. And if we don't drop this, then we can keep on having these conversations to no limit and yet achieve nothing. So I really do want to invite you all to open up your stories and your experiences and your challenges, and not just talk about it as another interesting subject which has nothing to do with me. Because if statistics say that 264 million people are suffering with depression, let me tell you that no matter how big this number looks, this is only the reported number. In my mind, it is double of this, and easily so. Because a lot of us are not even comfortable saying that I'm not okay. If you don't say you're not okay, you never will be. So here is what I want to say right at the beginning before I even get into statistics specific to women. It is okay to not be okay. What is not okay is to not talk about it. We've got to talk about the fact that we're not okay. And it is just a phase. It remains a phase if we call it out. The effort that we take to cover it, to hide it, is the effort that should be spent in healing out of it. Think about it. So what do we need to do as responsible citizens who are here, made time for this conversation? We need to be that sounding board for someone around to get that courage to say, you know what, I am not okay today. I'm not okay. And that's it. And please don't jump into that situation as an agony aunt or agony uncle to fix it. It is not for you to fix. You don't need to fix. Let the experts fix. In fact, you could do more damage. And I have done that to a very, very close friend of mine who was dealing with depression. And I thought, what is it that I can't help her with? I've coached so many people. I know so many tools and techniques, but that's so out of my scope. And I realized that when it started damaging our relationship. Each time I jumped in to help her, I caused more damage to her and to myself. And then I had to just back off and be there. All I have done in all these years for her while she went through professional help and even medication or whatever else was needed for her to come back in action, I have just told her that I'm around. And that's all. The need to be needed is what complicates things for people around who are not okay, because we want to be needed. We want to fix it. You've got to get yourself out of the equation because you're not a part of the equation. You've got to hold that space for someone who is, for that person who is not okay. And if you learn to do that well, it'll be a huge, huge help for that person. Now, let me talk specifically about women. I'm going to read out a few facts, which were eye-opening of facts for me, reported by WHO, World Health Organization. So here are 5 facts that I want to bring to your attention. Depressive disorders account for close to 41.9%, that's 42% of disabilities among women compared to 29.3% among men. Second fact, leading mental health problems with the older adults are depression, organic brain syndromes, and dementia. A majority are women. Third fact, an estimated 80% of 50 million people affected by violent conflicts, civil wars, disasters, and displacements are women and children. Fact number 4, lifetime prevalence rate of violence against women ranges from 16 to 50%. And the last fact, which I hope remains out of scope for any discussion in some time, at least 1 in 5 women suffer rape or attempted rape in their lifetime. Another question is, why are we not talking about it? Why is a victim more ashamed of the one who needs to be accused for that experience? And that is because as a society, we dissect the victim's experience instead of understanding the root cause that exists in our society, which is allowing this to happen. I want you to take a moment to think what this statistics means to you. This is not for some other planet. This is the planet where you live and I live. And this includes your family and my family, if not you and me. So what is it that we are doing about it? Or if I may say, what is it that we can do about it? Now, here are the 3 things that I think we can do. And I want you to make a note of each one of these three to see which one are you ready to commit to, because it requires commitment. It requires that heart to be in it full 100% with the intent to support. If you wish to support somebody who's in this space, I want you to start supporting yourself first. Ensure your own mental well-being. I'm talking to the women out there right now. And I want you to stop doing these three things that I have done. And I'm an absolute culprit of it. And I've consciously stopped doing it. And trust me, the amount of energy that now flows within and around me is so much more and so much more positive and more constructive that it allows me to create a lot more meaningful stuff and more value for people. Right? It's the same amount of energy. The energy that you have is finite. What you do with that is a question. So if you go deeper into WHO stats, like I have only read 5 out of like a whole list of things out there, you will realize that more number of women are comfortable talking about their psychological disorders than men, right? The equation is absolute in reverse order when it comes to taking proactive action for your psychological health. Are you understanding? So if I'm not okay as a woman, I'm okay to talk about it and go to seek help from a counselor as compared to a man. But when I'm in the process of getting there, I don't seek help. I don't seek support. And then what happens? I hit a dead end, and that's when I have no choice but to say, I'm not okay. I need to talk to a counselor. I am going to emphasize on certain things we need to do proactively today. When you think you are in the space of mental health, mental well-being, what can you do to maintain that state? Because if you're not okay, then you're not in any condition to help anyone, and please don't try. You've got to fix your own state of mind first, isn't it? Like you always say, if you are thirsty yourself, you can't quench anybody else's thirst. So an empty glass cannot serve anyone, right? So fill in your own self first. So what are the three things that I want you to do to fill up your own glass so that you have enough water to quench someone else's thirst? Classic example, when I say that, this probably come to your mind, is the aircraft and the oxygen mask falling, and then you putting it in your on your nose so that you can breathe and then save the co-passenger. And that is the real fact of life. You've got to do that. You've got to make sure you're okay. And that is the best way you can serve someone else, especially people you care for. So please take this down as 3S. And I want us to really look at where we are stuck when I take you through each one of these three. The first is stop proving. Stop proving that you're a great daughter, a great daughter-in-law, the best mother that ever was or will be, the best wife, and the best of this and the best of that, because you are a super woman. You are not, and you don't need to be. And trust me, nobody is sitting there with some kind of a trophy that will come your way when life has passed by and you have no energy or health left to enjoy this, this acknowledgement that you have worked towards all your life. You are not a superwoman and you don't need to be. Just be a woman who enjoys life. And that is such a superb thing to do. Every single moment, doing the best you can in every role you play. But that's where it ends. It's not about proving. It should not be about proving, because that is what adds to your stress, which no one is responsible for but you. Nobody is asking you to be an exemplary everything. It is your demand from yourself, and I want you to release yourself of this unrealistic demand. Only then will you enjoy your relationships better, and trust me, you will, because I did. When I decided to put that crown of being a superwoman away, I just started enjoying every relationship and every role a lot more by being myself and doing the best I could. So that's the first S that I want you to remember. Stop proving yourself. The second S is to seek support. Please seek support from people around, because when you do, you make them feel included. They are not guests, they are your family members. They probably don't know how to help you because they see you doing everything and it seems okay. And because you're so used to it, you make it appear as if it's okay. Until one day, it all comes tumbling down and you crash. And when you do, you look outside to see who all to blame. And the people you blame are the ones who live with you, the ones you've been serving, the ones you've been loving, and they love you back. The only problem is you never allowed them to reach out to you for that support, which you could have asked for. So please put your hand up and ask for support. It's okay to sit back and do nothing sometimes. It's absolutely okay to do that. That me time will give you so much more energy, positivity, and happiness to do everything else that you want to do for your loved ones. Give yourself that me time because you deserve it and you need it. The third S is to speak up. Speak up. Let's talk. Let's talk not just about what's happening in the neighborhood, what other people are doing or not. Let's talk about your own self. Talk about what's going on with you. What are the challenges that you're facing? Or some challenges you faced in the past and you could get over it, and how could you overcome that? And that story could open up something for me. So often people ask, why should we open up? Don't we give content to people to gossip about me? When I share my story, don't they judge me? And I say, you know what? I would look at it very selfishly. And I'll say, how does it serve me to speak out? And I think it serves me in many ways. To begin with, it helps me to release and vent out what's not okay. I've created some space to fill in some positivity, some happiness, and some me time. The second thing I've done is silently given courage to somebody else to speak up for themselves. And the third thing, if I'm lucky, I will get some support from people around who will say, you know what, you're not alone in it. You're not the only one who's going through this. We understand, we get it. We're with you. And that's all you need to hear when you are getting your pieces together to put it the way you want. The most beautiful thing about us as women, or if I may say as humans, is our imperfections. That's what makes us beautiful. Seeking perfection is an unnecessary goal to create for ourselves because it is anyways an illusion. And as much as we know it, my biggest problem is that the knowing doesn't get converted into the doing. So the moment you talk about things like this, a lot of people say, oh yeah, I know, there's nothing called perfection, and silently chase the same. So I'm saying, let's go beyond what you think you know and really bring that into action and say, yeah, I mean, there is nothing called perfect. I am imperfect and I am accepting these imperfections and I'm conscious of working on them. And this is what life is all about. It's fun because I am forever work in progress. But you can't make any progress if you're not conscious of what progress to make. So let us look at those imperfections as a very interesting way forward where I need to make progress. And I am going to take my own sweet time to get there because I want to enjoy the journey as well. The journey of being a mother, the journey of being an entrepreneur, the journey of being a daughter, a daughter-in-law, a wife, or whoever else that you are and the roles that you're playing in your life. And most importantly, the journey of being me is who I am, the individual. So here is how I would like to end our chat here and of course, pick up any questions that you may have. And I want you to know that it is okay to not be okay. And no matter how not okay you are, you're never alone. All that it takes is to create a community or be a part of one where you can speak out and know that all you have to do is put your hand up. Thank you.
That was amazing, Yukti. And I have few questions, if you may allow me to ask.
Sure, please.
So basically, a lot of women, a lot of us, we go through body shaming. So be it if anybody's tall, they say bahut lambi hai. If anybody is short, bahut short hai, dark hair, fair hair. So and we take it too much to our mind, and we are emotionally affected. We as women. So any advice in that regard?
I have been a victim of body shame myself, Yankee. When I was younger, we are 3 daughters to my parents, and I am the darker skinned child. Okay, so my other two sisters are fairer, and fairness is fair. Being fair is equal to being beautiful. Okay, in where I come from, a large part of our society believes that if you are a girl and if you're fair, then you're more beautiful than the rest. So I have really tried hard to blend and camouflage myself in the background so that I'm invisible to people, so that I don't hear about their tips on how I can get 2 shades lighter, you know. And if I look at myself today, I am 2 shades lighter, but that's not because of any advice I picked or any treatment I went through. It was only after I accepted myself. And let me confess that it wasn't easy, but I realized that that's the only way I can smile at myself, and I see myself in the mirror and I say, okay, this is me. This is me. This is my complexion. This is my waistline. This is what my eyes look like. This is what my hair looks like. This is me. All right. And I love what I see. And it was so fake in the beginning. So fake because I didn't believe what I was saying. But it's so true that you can really fake it till you make it. And I made it through that journey of faking it to say, you know what? This is good. What I see in the mirror is good. This is really good. I love you the way you are, because you have your heart in your place and everything else will fall in place. And I didn't realize when I was physically a few shades lighter, not that I associate that with beauty even today. But the point I'm trying to make is that any amount of body shame comes to a sudden end the moment you decide to accept yourself, because that shame is seeking perfection, right? You're not looking at that perfection in the mirror, and hence the shame. Like we said a while back, there is nothing perfect. Nothing is perfect. So this is me, and these are my many imperfections, and this is what makes me who I am, and it is beautiful.
And we are not machines, as in we are humans, so everybody has to be different. And
yeah,
not
thank God for that. Thank God for that, right? This world is a much better place because of the variety and the beauty that each one of us brings in.
true. And also, there's this, we try to be superwoman, so we want to do everything. And if we are not able to do something, so we feel very guilty, we as women, and that affects our mental health. So, what is a like hack for it that not to feel so guilty about a lot of things?
I think that's such an important word that you have used, guilt, right? So when I had to get back to my job, I had to drop my infant twins to a daycare. And I was feeling guilty. And how? I mean, I was sitting outside daycare, crying my heart out for days and weeks because I felt like I'm the most terrible mother on earth to be doing something like this. But I had to do what I needed to do to bring food to the table and also to follow my own ambitions and plans that I had as an individual for myself, right? And I think holding that guilt is what slows down everything else that you can create with the time that you have, because you are just busy getting out of that guilt or somewhere falling deeper within it in that much time. So what happens as a result is you start overcompensating. So a lot of working parents land up giving more than the child requires because they overcompensate for lack of time that they are spending with the children. Right? So you take gadgets, you can take whatever money can buy, and as long as I can afford it, I am just actually taking care of my guilt and not really trying to make you happy, because this is my way to compensate. But I'm calling it very consciously as an overcompensation, because that's not what's really missing. And you know it. What is missing is your time. So it is the quality that you then create instead of chasing the quantity, which cannot be replaced by any expensive gadget that you may be able to afford for your children. So if it's about dropping the guilt, it happens by knowing that you are doing your best. And it's a very important reminder to bring back to yourself again and again that I am trying to do my best in this moment. And this is as much as I know. And years from now, I'll be wiser and I will do what I would do then. Just as how I can do a few things better today that I couldn't a few years back when I wasn't as wise. Right? So you drop the guilt by knowing that you are doing the best that you can. And for that, you deserve a pat on your back, so you keep going on. Right?
I've seen a lot of women, as in who are newly So they come to a new house and they try to, as in please everybody, and so but doing that they themselves are not happy. So any advice for for the newlyweds, because there's a lot of shift in them, though you one might feel it's just that they have to change their house, and other people feel the other way ke, but they themselves have to prove to everybody of being a good daughter-in-law, a good wife, then later maybe good kid, good mother. So any advice for the newlyweds, because they go through a lot of mental, sometimes mental, not trauma, some of them, but to prove themselves. So the family might not expect, but they want to prove themselves. So any advice around that?
Yeah, that is like such an important phase of life, right? I always say that there are three very common turning points in almost everyone's life. While our lives are so unique, but these three turning points are quite common, right? The first is when you get married. The second is when you become a parent. And the third is when you take up a leadership role, when you're responsible for someone else's career and growth. And why are these turning points? Because this is when you start realizing a new side of you, right? You start looking at traits that you probably didn't know existed because you are being challenged with a very different, within a very different context for a different setup each time as a parent, as a newly married, or as a leader. Unfortunately, none of us go through any structured training to be better prepared for these turning points, right? Nobody teaches us how to be a newly married person. Like you're asking, and I'm so glad you're asking such an important question. Or when you become a parent, how are you supposed to become a parent? You just become one because you're biologically ready to be one. And you just give birth, and now you think, what's the big deal? I just need to change diapers, and I need to stay up all night, and I shouldn't be shouting at an infant, and that makes me a great parent. Absolutely not. There is so much more that we need to know and learn before we get there. And I do hope and pray that we choose to find ways to really learn how to be better prepared for these three roles. So coming back to your question on newly married, and I'm talking in an Indian setup, very simply put, this is a room full of all Indian women and men here. So we know exactly what our culture is and how it is designed. And then when you're getting into a new family, there are so many emotions going on within you. And as much as every woman goes through it, years later, it is very difficult to relate to that feeling once again. So as a parent of a 10-year-old twins, if a new mom needs to take some advice from me, I will just fold my hands and ask for forgiveness, because I'll say I'm a wrong person, because it happened 10 years back and I have very faint recollection of what I did. Are you with me? Because just moved on from that phase. And so now I understand our unrealistic expectations from the mother-in-law or the other women in the house to know exactly how I'm feeling might not always be lack of intent from their end. They've just moved on from their phase so long back that they can't connect with where you are today. So my humble request is to walk into a new family as an add-on to your existing family, not a replacement. They are adding to your family and to your inner circle. They can never replace the beauty of the family that you come from and the circle that you come from. You're only expanding that circle of love for yourself. And when you look at that as a circle of love, you're able to include more people in who are waiting to offer their love to you. And it's a two-way process of not only receiving and giving love, but also slowly understanding each other and allowing that space each one of us require to be who we are. So there are three things that are coming to my mind right now as I hear this question. The first is to drop the expectations from what people should say or do, which includes your husband, who is also just a year or two older than you are. So just as mature or immature as you are, you both kind of figuring out what just happened. So wait and hold back those expectations that you might have, that he's the knight in shining armor and he's supposed to rescue me each time I'm not okay. And I should not be saying that. He should just know it. Ooh, that is too much pressure, because even you don't know what's going on with you. then how can someone else take that responsibility to know exactly what's going on there? So please drop the expectations and make it simple for people to understand what you're going through, which means share. Share what you're feeling. Share your discomfort, the right time in the right place. And I'm sure you know what the right time and right place is. Talk to people about how you're feeling, what is missing, what support you want, what will make you more comfortable, instead of expecting that they will just get it. Another important thing that I want you to know is it is not as if everyone is judging you. Till you judge people, you will forever feel judged. If you want to stop feeling judged by people, you have to stop judging them first. This is also a two-way conversation and two-way action, just as how giving and receiving love is. Right? So if you think I'm sitting in the middle and everyone's kind of figuring out whether my nose is at the right place or not, are my eyes beautiful enough for the sun or not, are my hair long enough or not, maybe you're in your head also judging all those people sitting around you. You stop judging them, you will stop feeling judged by them. And that simply and automatically allows you to be who you are. Right? So be comfortable with the fact that you are there as your choice, and then embrace the love and attention that is coming your way. Everything that happens to us can be looked upon as a blessing, for as long as we have that attitude of gratitude to receive it that way.
So yeah, Yukti, it was such a wonderful session, and you make it so easy, as in, so whenever you make life so easy that it is very, very easy. And so you've given great hacks to us, to all the women around you, and definitely some of the points we'll consider. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.